Welcome to Conversations with Debbie. Actually, Debbie, anyone going to call you Debbie?
No.
Conversations with Deborah, a bi-coastal dialogue with myself, Malcolm Berman, and my good friend Deborah Manning on malcolmpresent.com. Good.
How are you?
Good afternoon. It's both
Good
afternoon for
afternoon.
both of us.
Absolutely. I'm Deborah Manning, native Southern Californian. Used to be a news reporter before I decided to move back to Greenville, South Carolina.
Greenville, South Carolina.
I'll tell you, it's totally ensconced here. We're coming up on almost 6 years being here in South Carolina. Who'd have thought? Native Californian would have never happened. But
who'd have thunk?
Yeah, but it's a different experience. It's a great experience. It's far more affordable than, unfortunately, Southern California and all of California was turning into. But we're very happy here. You probably saw in the background one of my favorite cats. That would be Ziggy. He's our orange and white popsicle cat, and he and I think you can't quite see, but Miss Gracie, who is our little black and gray and white cat.
No, I can't see Gracie.
Yeah, well, she is. Let's see if I can turn this just slightly. Don't know whether you can.
We get a little there. Yeah, we get part of it by the window.
Okay, so what Gracie is doing is that she's making sure that the squirrels and the birds have plenty of company.
But bring it back because your voice is, you're losing your microphone.
Okay. So Gracie sits out there on the...
What you have to do is get a little microphone like this.
Oh, you're right. I should. You're right. Absolutely. But we'll talk about that offline. So, but anyway. So how's everything with you? Literally nothing happened this week now, did it?
No, I mean the weather's the same here. Actually, for a few days it gotten to be the high 90s, but today it's back to the 70s. And I've been doing my walking in the morning, and as a matter of fact, some of the mornings it was like 59 degrees.
Oh, nice.
So I had to wear my jacket.
Well, we are fully in fall here, which is fabulous. The first day of fall was yesterday, and today we're probably mid 70s, very little humidity. We're going to be going, after our broadcast here, we're going to be going off to the Rutherford Farmers Market for their annual plant sale. And gardening here in South Carolina is totally different than any place I've ever been. I've lived around the world, and it's just different. For example, we get a lot of rain. We're up to now 36 inches of rain. And we had a nice rainstorm last week when we were chatting about things, but then we got another 1.5 to 2 inches during the week. And we're expecting more coming in from the Gulf of Mexico, which has always been very, very nice. So it's interesting. It's very interesting. Everything here is the doggone green. We went apple picking yesterday and had a absolute blast. So I do want to greet a couple of new viewers. That would be John from Macintosh Orchards. He promised that he would wash. Yeah, my Macintosh. Oh, wait a minute. McGregor, I'm sorry. McGregor Orchards. And he's...
Macintosh is the name of the apple.
That's true. And he has, in terms of apples, 25 different types of apples, 6 of which he uses for his infamous pies. His pies are called Big Boy Apple Pies. So he sells them around the state, and apparently they're fabulous. We have to go to another location to pick one up, but I am certain that he will have great pies for all. And
I think I tell you the story that before it came out to California, I had really never seen an apple growing on a tree.
Oh, really?
To me, an apple wasn't safe unless I bought it in the vegetable store. I had to go to the store. They had to be, to me, if I bought it in the store, then it was okay. If I got it off a tree, I don't know what would have happened.
Birds would be there or something.
Until I got here. And then there was when I had my kids, there was an orchard up in Woodland Hills.
Oh, nice.
That I think it was like the second weekend after July 4th, they would have, you could come in there, and I think for $2, they gave you the poles to pick the apples, and then you would pay either by the carton or by the bag full.
Yep.
You could buy a bag, it was like $2 or $5 for a carton, and my boys used to love climbing up the trees. Well, not only my boys, my wife was a
You bet.
tomboy, and she grew up in El Salvador, so
There
she
you,
loved climbing up trees and throwing the apples down.
there you go. Well, it's a lot of fun here. We are supporting local farmers through a group called Feed and Seed. Actually going to be doing some volunteer work for them. And it also helps local homeless and folks that are food deprived be able to get some good fresh food. What's interesting about their concept is that you're literally buying directly from the farmers. And I mean, the boxes that we get of fruits and vegetables, they may have been picked the day before. So the
Yeah.
freshness is just phenomenal. And of course, I mean, I must sound so cityfied. Why would I be excited about that? Well, it tastes different, and I'm learning how to cook okra, which is an acquired taste, and grits, another acquired
No,
taste.
actually, I like grits.
Oh, do you really?
Yeah,
I got to learn how to do it.
I lived in in Greenwich Village,
Oh,
back in the probably like in the early 70s.
okay.
And there was a store that opened up it was called the Pink Teacup, and it was owned by this black couple who were from down south.
There you
and,
go.
and they cooked southern cooking. I mean, the great southern fried chicken.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy, the chef was, I mean, he was enormous, very, very friendly. But in the
Yep.
morning, I used to have, eggs,
Mm-hmm.
and then they had bacon, but the bacon wasn't like the packaged bacon. It was sliced bacon that they used to slice it, so it was really thick.
Yep.
And then they had hominy grits,
Yep.
and that
Well,
was
we
my
just
typical.
the other great dish that's here is shrimp and grits, and they put the sausage in it. We had that night before last, and it's fabulous. We went to one of our once a month restaurants, Sobeys, and got a chance to try their shrimp and grits, which was just it's amazing. It's just the food here in the South is truly amazing. You got to watch out though. You got to put the time out
Well,
on some of the desserts and what have you.
you
The
gotta-
pecan pie.
you got to watch your waistline.
Yeah, you do. You absolutely do. So at any rate,
And I love eating.
oh yeah, and so do I. COVID was a wonderful excuse, and I'm now paying the price. So I'm, starting to trim on down and what have you before the holidays.
Actually, I lost weight.
Oh, did you really? Oh my goodness! Now, how in the world did you do that?
I wake up in the morning,
Hmm.
and after about, all I have is like toast and coffee.
Hmm.
And in fact, I just tried to, and I've been doing it's whole wheat toast, a little
Mhm.
peanut butter, and I just tried putting a banana on top.
There you go.
It's a good taste. But anyway, then I go out and I walk 3-4 miles.
You go.
Then I go out. Then from there I go to there's a gym actually there's a gym at my estates here, but there's also a gym in my backyard
Hmm.
where I have my own weight bench.
There you go.
I have the heavy weight bag and the speed bag.
See, that's so smart. That is so
So I
smart.
do that, and then that lasts about 2 hours after my run.
There you go.
Then I have my lunch. Then I get bored. No, but then I have my no. Then I have my shows.
There you do.
There's like 6-7 shows that I do.
Well, getting back to business, of course, the big hullabaloo was about the Haitians, and we can't seem to get a straight answer from Mayorkas, who says he can't quite remember because he works 18 hours a day, like we all don't. He works 18 hours a day, and he just doesn't have enough time to count the number of Haitians. It was at the beginning of the week 15,000 under the bridge in Del Rio in Texas. Now we're down to apparently just a couple of hundred.
Yeah, they said about 3,000. I think that was the number I get, because a lot of the Haitians, from what I understand, are moving back into Mexico because Biden.
A lot of them I've heard are not doing that. In fact, they're being shipped to various places, processing centers, so that and they're being used with buses and with airplanes. Apparently, a number of them are going into places like Tennessee, West Virginia. A number of them are going into Florida. Ironically enough, and I don't want to, point the finger, but I do find it interesting that they're all going into red states. And unfortunately, the problem at this point right now is I don't understand how the head of Homeland Security has not got a number as to the number of people and where they're being jitneyed to. I find that rather disingenuous. And he was rather rude, I felt, that to both the Senate and to the House. We need some answers here, Malcolm. I mean, aren't you a little bit
No,
concerned?
no. Well, I didn't like the way the senators were yelling at him. What do you mean you didn't know? What do you mean you didn't know? How could you? You have to know. That they were berating him. I said, excuse me, if you can't speak to me civilly, forget about it.
Well, don't you feel as though since he does work for us, that he should have these figures?
Well, the problem is it's such a ever-changing situation. People are pouring in, which was not expected, and it was
Wait, 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 wait.
and
It was expected when you're invited in because Biden on numerous occasions said, come on down.
no. Wait. Who said
Right.
come on down? He said who said come on down was
Yeah.
not Biden, and it was not the secretary.
Yes,
No. It was a certain amount of people that were there before. I forget it was before a certain date.
Mhm.
And who had qualified, they would be considered. But what happened, there was a whole thing, I think it
When
was,
President Biden decided to say to Haitians that there is now no limit on the number of people who can come in, surprise, surprise.
no, it was never said. It was said by the right-wing press. Yes, it was. In fact, it was said by Governor Abbott. Now that we have open borders, there were never open borders, not that I ever heard.
Well, let me ask you a question. When we're getting in 186 to 204,000 new immigrants coming in per month, I don't understand how someone can say that these are closed borders. They're not closed borders. They're wide open.
They are closed borders and not controlled borders. We have there are so many of them. They haven't been prepared. I didn't say that he's handling it the right way, but he didn't
Well, good.
invite
At least
them.
we have some common ground. It's not being handled the right way.
Right.
And the American people are now saying, I know that for example, with the independents, his approval rating for President Biden is down to, I believe it's 32%, maybe 30.
I don't know. The last I heard was 40, but that was last week.
That was with all voters. So as an independent voter, and I'm a former news reporter myself, I stay pretty fair and balanced about things. However, I am a bit concerned because the amount of people that are coming in that need to have services and need to have support, it's going to put unbelievable amounts of pressure onto taxpayers and to the government in these various states and these various cities.
Except for Biden, there's really no winning situation. Why? If he lets the people in, right? Then the Haitians in, it's, oh my God, look what he's doing. If he doesn't let the Haitians in, he says, oh my God, look what he's doing. He's not, people are dying and he's letting them die. The Haitians have been in South America and Central America since I think the first earthquake in 2010. Then they had the earthquake in 2020, and they got more. And take a look at the write up in the Los Angeles Times today. If you take a look at it, and there's a whole thing. There's a website called WhatsApp that the Haitians are communicating with each other. In fact, they're the relatives who live here, who came here, are writing, okay, you take this bus over here from Guatemala, then you take this bus in Mexico, then you take that bus. Then you have people, again, I never heard any of the people from the administration says we have open borders. Well, what we do have is we have
the other thing that we have is we have people that are basically not telling us what the truth is. These are as open a borders as we have ever seen. And I mean, when you have 15,000 people one week and suddenly you have zero the next week, and they can only account for apparently about 1,200 people who have been shipped back to Haiti. Where are the rest of these people? What?
Well,
Rabbit in my hat?
a lot of people have been sent back to Mexico.
Well,
but the thing is, parts of the problem, aside from, of course, it's a humanitarian problem. I mean, what happened in Haiti is the two earthquakes, the drought, and the killing of the president. the
Mhm,
situation. These people are desperate.
mhm.
Now, what has happened is because not necessarily because our government has said it's open borders. You have people like Greg Abbott, the governor of Texas, saying, and I heard it the other day, oh, they have open borders, we're welcoming them in. We're not welcoming them in.
Well, I don't
And
think
then you have the,
exactly Greg Abbott would be saying that. In fact, he's trying to rebuild the wall. And in fact, they put a wall of automobiles, of official cars to try and stop folks. And I just think the insincerity of the administration, the Biden administration, is beyond
yeah,
compare. Now, I understand for Haitians to come in to take the low-paying jobs, that in fact many Americans don't apparently want to go back to do dishwashing or.
wait, time out. We're not taking the Haitians in because we're taking them in for humanitarian reasons, that if they go back to their country, they might die, that they don't have enough food. Actually, but that's around the world. We're going to have to face this in the next few years if there's any, if there's no change in, climate. All these countries, there was a good piece the other day in the news about Guatemala.
Mhm.
Guatemala, they were showing farmers, small farms, all their crops are dead because there's no water. So the guy
Yeah,
has to,
same way it is up in Central California.
in Central California, it's all over the world. What do you
Mhm,
do with these people?
mhm.
You let them die? There has to be some sort of,
When
I don't know the answer.
when you talk about a humanitarian crisis, we're getting to a humanitarian crisis here in the United States. The unbelievable inflation is truly going to start to hit us. You realize that FedEx had to reduce its overall earnings because it says we have unbelievable inflation in terms of transportation costs. I spoke with a young business owner yesterday. We went to the city of Greer, and a young business owner was talking to me about trying desperately to stay back in business. And many of her suppliers uh, ask, they make pillows and what have you. Well, the normal cost to ship those pillows normally is about $7,000 for, she gets enough for 6 months worth of pillows and what have you. You realize that her transportation costs went up to, hold on to your hat, $17,000. $17,000 from seven. Obviously, she's going to have to pass those costs on. Now, people don't need to have pillows necessarily, but we do need to have things like, be nice to have some chicken, be nice to have some pork, maybe some hamburger. And they're also now talking about the fact, do not be overbuying your toilet paper because there's now a 60% chance that we're going to have another pandemic situation with toilet paper. I mean, I don't know what the devil is going on. I do wish that there would, and once again, I'm an independent voter, and I would have tried to give President Biden the benefit of the doubt. But when he talks about increasing everybody's taxes vis-a-vis inflation and vis-a-vis increasing overall taxes completely, I do find it interesting also that apparently a report that came out last night is that President Biden apparently has back taxes of what was it, $500,000?
Yeah, I
Five
did read.
hundred thousand dollars. Now, I find that rather interesting when he's talking about the fair share. The rich must pay their fair share. Now, the other thing I find rather interesting is that it was based on a $13.5 million income stream. Now, how many books did President Biden sell? How many different speeches did he have to earn $13.5 million? I just find it rather interesting, rather stupefying to me.
Well, the one I was reading a story about, which is interesting, was Harry S. Truman.
Mm-hmm.
How he didn't take a penny after he left office. He lived in his own house. He didn't have Secret Service people. When he
Mm-hmm.
went on trips, when he went on plane trips, he paid with his own pocketbook.
Mm-hmm.
This is what we need. By the way, I saw a headline. I didn't read the story.
Okay.
So I have to look into that and get back to you on that as far as him. But I
Oh,
don't.
please
Again, I don't.
don't sound like Jen Psaki, the press secretary. It's really getting on.
I don't know. I don't know where he made
Around.
his money, but he should have made some money. He was a vice president for 4 years, and he was in the Senate for God knows how many years. or 20, how long was he in the Senate?
Forever.
Forever. So he must have made some money and put something away, make some investments. And no, it wasn't all from China.
Well, actually, according to Politico, who has just now come up with some additional information about Hunter Biden's laptop, apparently there was some money also coming from Libya. So now Politico, who was very mum about the Hunter laptop before the election, is now saying, we may have made a mistake here. It could, in fact, be that there are some very interesting business dealings of Hunter Biden. Be interesting to go ahead and see what the IRS has to say about the flow of cash.
Well, actually, to be a drug addict, you need a lot of money.
You do, don't you?
Yeah.
I don't know anything about it.
Well, as I say, some of the people that I know, the money went up their nose. But anyway, everything is like innuendos. This is a world that there's nothing really proven. It's sort of like what our former president said, that a friend of mine who's in business, he said, what's your friend's name? Well, he wouldn't want to be identified, but he told me everything is, not proven, but sort of like rumors. It's like, oh, I hear they did the audit. They released the audit for for Arizona, and supposedly, according to the audit, actually, Biden has won the state by another, I think, 6,000 votes.
Oh, that's
for Maricopa County. But the question is that in the first thing I said, oh, but they didn't do it right. That was Trump's thing when he heard about it.
Oh,
that's not because that they had the because they had dead people voting. And it didn't show that dead people voted, but oh, that numbers aren't right because they had dead people voting. They had people voting, 3 times, 4 times people from out of state, and that was never proven.
You and I have said, and I was very highly criticized by a lot of my Trump supporter friends, wait until the evidence comes in. I've been a forensic auditor myself, along with my late husband, Tom, and you have to wait and you have to do the forensic audit. It takes time to be able to do it. And that number should prove out exactly what's going on. So I haven't had a chance to read the Maricopa report at this point right now. So
we'll talk about it next week. I'll give you a break on that one.
Oh.
but another thing which didn't make any sense is I think it was Abbott who said it. I'm not sure in the speech. He said, "Oh yeah, they want all the Haitians in, so they would become Democratic voters."
I haven't heard that.
Yeah, well, that one of them said that. But the question is, they can't be voters. They're not citizens. And there's probably no way for them to become citizens, or they'll be citizens in 10, 20 years.
Well, as I say, I do wish, and you're right, the innuendo. I think it's interesting though now that the way that that Biden is really starting to run out of his honeymoon. The press was very upset and very embarrassed by the fact when British Prime Minister Boris Johnson was here, that only the British press was allowed to be able to talk and ask questions, and the American press was hustled out. Yeah, I do find it, since I was a former news reporter in Los Angeles and I won my fair share of awards, and I do find it rather amazing that the press would be so stupid as to allow something like that to happen. You can hear the handlers ushering them out of the press hall. And I got to tell you, in my day, we would never be ushered out of the press hall. It wouldn't have happened.
Well, that was because we didn't have the British interpreters there.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, that's
speaking a totally different language.
Well, that's the famous line by Winston Churchill.
I love it.
We're two countries separated by the same language.
I'm also looking at the other fact that, did you realize that, and I'm reading my notes here because I do keep notes here, that 9 lawmakers voted to stop the funding on Israel's Iron Dome defense system? I find that amazing. And apparently when a separate bill was passed by Hoyer Steny, and it did pass, apparently AOC broke down in tears. She was so upset that this was passed. Now, I do find it quite amazing that this whole quote unquote squad seems to think that other countries like Israel uh, don't deserve to have money for their defense system, and yet they're very willing to blindside and not worry about things like on the Taliban. They were not upset about the Afghan. We still have Americans stuck behind lines in terms of Afghanistan. I just it's the whole thing is just. Are there any things that you as a Biden voter are proud of? Is there anything that Biden has done in the past?
Yes, that he's gotten back as to the Paris Accord, that he is talking about, that he's talking about climate change. That, I mean, for again, watch my shows that I have with Maxine Rubin. Actually,
the climate change is one of
Margot.
the climate change is one of the positives.
That out of everything that we're talking about, where people living, there's what's going to be happening if nothing changes, even if they start changing it, is this mass migration of population, because there's certain areas of the world that can become uninhabitable.
So that's the second thing. The mass migration is the second good thing that Biden has brought. Is that correct?
No. I'm saying that's going to be, the mass migration is going to be a major problem because of the climate change. Sort of, as I say, like the Guatemala, they're not going to be able to live there. There's certain areas in Africa that there's no water, that they're going to have. They have to be huge groups of people that are going to be migrating into different places, and who's going to take them in? No country wants to take in anybody.
Well, obviously, America would be taking all of them in.
And, so my question
still remains: what are the issues? What are the areas, the policy areas that you, as a Biden voter, are most proud of our president?
I tell you, the climate change, the way he's, which he's made some mistakes, but the way he went back to, the NATO people. Again, he's made mistakes. I like his trying to put back back or whatever it is.
I know.
I approve of that. I approve what this legislation he's trying to do. Not only the infrastructure, the social infrastructure of having childcare for people. I think his whole policy, if it's ever, I don't know if it's going to go through, but I think it's great. And I think again, what else? As far as his foreign policy, I don't know. There's certain things I said he didn't execute. I agree with him, which actually Trump wanted also, is to get out of Afghanistan, that we had no business being there now.
The way in which it was done. Yeah.
The execution was bad. I agree with, I think the problem with Biden is the communications. What he's done is not, again, when people say he has open borders, he has never said, I want open borders. No one in the, and I've seen the Secretary of State come up, in news conferences and said, we've never said open borders. I've never heard him say open borders.
What exactly is happening on the border?
On the border, it's what's becoming is that there's so miscommunication, there's so misinformation, and I'm sure a lot of it is, as I say, where the governor of Texas say, oh, they have open borders now. When you go over to,
I don't think the Haitians are listening to the governor.
No. But what it is, it's as I say, what's up, or WhatsApp.
WhatsApp, yeah.
That their relatives are listening to it, and they are sending through the internet. They say now every one of they say most of the Haitians have cell phones. They are getting instructions on how to come here, and you're getting the news.
This is how does this help average Americans? What has President Biden done to help average everyday Americans? We now have a mask mandate. We now have a booster vaccinations that he announced that was going to go for everybody. Unfortunately, it's just for people like you and me. So we've got that.
What do you mean, people like you and me? It started out that it's people over 65, or people who have are are susceptible to the
Don't
to
you
the
be
virus.
claiming you're under 65, young man. I know you're a young guy, but
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's funny. Every time I hear over 65, I don't relate to it until I say, that's me. It's like when, it's like when, it was funny. I was doing something with the insurance company
Yeah.
for my automobile, and parts of it is, what's your date of birth? And every
Yeah.
time I have to give my date of birth and I mention the year, I say, oh my God.
I know. I know.
Am I really that old? But it's funny.
No, you're just getting started.
Yeah. Well, I'm just starting to see things. Anyway, what I was gonna say is, but before, actually, our half hour is up, if believe it or
Sure.
not.
Okay.
I would be considered, again, which who I liked was Bernie Sanders. I think Bernie Sanders was much more direct. I think you need someone with a heavier hand that's not going to say negotiate. If the Democrats have the votes and have the and can outvote the Republicans, I would say, okay, let's do it. I don't need bipartisan. I don't think the Republicans go. They're like the masses. They follow the leader. Whatever McCarthy says,
You know what?
they do it.
I cannot believe that you would say something like that, because even I say you need to have yin and the yang.
No,
And
I would say push
very
it through.
important to have two sides of the story so that you can get the best blend, the brightest and the best solutions.
No, not when you have the one side of it does not does something what the leadership says. They don't go on their own. They vote as an entire block. None
Well,
of
you're
them are
talking about the Democrats, for crying out loud. You're not talking about the Republicans.
No, if the Democrats worked as an entire block, we're two Democrats that don't want to vote with us. And they're stopping everything. I would do away with the filibuster, which came in 1913. If that's wrong, when the Republicans would come in, 4 years from now, or 2 years from now, they would get it back again.
Have different points of view, and you've got to have compromise with various ideas. It cannot all be one side or the other.
But the Republicans aren't compromising. Where Biden said, okay, tell me your number. What number do you want? And
well,
they haven't gotten back to him.
He's refused to even talk with the Republicans. And in fact, unfortunately, and I'm saying this as an independent, I'm really getting tired of being lied to. I'm tired of it. I'm tired of it.
I think you've been listening too much to Fox News.
I listen to all of the news, and okay. I do resent situations like MSNBC talking about that the Border Patrol is like slave masters.
Now, actually, that's what I disagree with also, because the border. I'm from Coney Island, as I told you, and the way that the horsemen, the horse cops, the way they controlled groups and mobs is, if you had like riots, they'd have the horses in there, and they wouldn't be whipped, where they wouldn't have the reins whipping, but they would move their tails. The horse would stay and sort of like wiggle around, and people would disperse. Done that way, I think that's a matter of crowd control. But anyway,
let me ask, have you ever ridden a horse before?
Yes.
Okay. When you ride a horse with those long reins, the whole reason that those reins were being designed to be able to make sure that the horse stayed in place, that the horse was not going to bolt one way or the other. It was interesting, however, that the Haitian man who was asked to go ahead and back up kept coming forward and was starting to grab the reins of the horse. You can't do that.
Right. That's why I'm not so sure that I'm not that much upset by the horses there, where they say, oh my God, if they whip down like whips, that's another story, but I don't necessarily saw that.
But it wasn't. I mean, it was once again this delusional political story, which I am sick to death of having.
But again, the thing that I say also is, Biden wasn't necessarily my number one choice, but I know what my number one choice is: not to have president, to get rid of him. And not to vote for. If the Republicans came up with an alternative that I could agree with, I might consider it.
Okay.
But
so I want you to think about who you would consider voting for.
I'm not sure if so far there's no Republican that I really respect. Who I would love is Bernie Sanders, but if I thought he was a little too old. I think Biden's a little too old. I think Trump is a little too old.
Yep.
I mean, what I want to see is also the Senate are a bunch of old men who can't relate to the AOCs of the world. And there
Well,
should be
fortunately, can't relate to the AOCs because I got to tell you, she's about as dumb as a doornail.
no, but she's, as I say, she's on the other side of things. But you said everybody should be should considered everybody. You have
Absolutely,
to
and I listen to what she has to say. I do wish that there could be some common sense coming out of that.
Well, I know common sense, but I don't know if she's dumb as a doornail. I think her education, I forget what her education was, but it was impressive.
Has nothing to do with the education. It has to do with overall common sense and looking out for everybody, not just herself.
Well, common sense is what a lot of the people of the Senate miss. But anyway, next week should be an interesting week because that's when the debt ceiling comes up and whether we pay our bills or not, or
the Democrats have got the votes to be able to raise the ceiling. They'll just raise the ceiling.
I don't think they have the votes to raise the ceiling.
Yeah, they do because they have it through reconciliation and they can jam it through. So they can raise it.
Anyway, we'll talk about it because I want to see if they also get their infrastructure thing through and the reconciliation through for the social reconstruction.
It'll be interesting.
So
as always, my best to you and your wife.
Okay.
Have a lovely rest of the day.
And say hello to Fish and your kitties.
Absolutely. There's Ziggy there in the corner.
Yeah, I see.
There he is.
You'll have to introduce him one day. As I say, I always say goodbye. The show always runs about 40 minutes from the 30 minutes. It's lucky we're not on network radio. We'd have to charge. Anyway, one day you'll have to introduce him individually.
I certainly will. All
right.
Have
a great week.
I will. Bye-bye now.
Bye.